Well, good afternoon, Speed Gaming 2. My name is Tiro. I will be co-commentating with Boy. He'll be joining us just in a minute. But I wanted to switch over because our runners here today, Dragonstrike and Pachu, they jumped the gun and they got to a start. So of course, this is our standard randomized weapons mode of the tournament, and it looks like that both runners are picking up the Fire Rod and Uncle. Fire Rod is definitely one of the most powerful weapons you can pick up early on. Makes it a little bit difficult to farm bombs due to the fact that you only have a limited, you have 8 Fire Rod shots. But as you can see, Pachu is using some pots to pick up a few extra kills. The most important thing for our runners during the escape sequence is going to be wanting to find that early bomb so they can access the back of escape. If they're not able to do that, they're going to have to make the backtrack, and it could potentially cost them a significant amount of time later on in the race. So chat, how you guys making out today? Looks like we have quite a few people here. This is a 1-1 tournament match. We're in week 3 of the 7-round Swiss tournament. So both of our runners here, one loss, one win, looking to rack up a few more wins, picking up silver arrows in the vanilla map location. Excellent early find. Would have been paired great if they had found the bow on Uncle, but bow being a required item, they're going to pick it up sooner or later. Definitely nice to get silvers out of the way. Early on in the game, you get the most time that you can maximize that massive damage output. So just a little piece of love in the vanilla boomerang location. Dragonstrike heading down to face the ball and chain guard, which will be a single Fire Rod shot. Deciding not to save the magic here and use the 2 pots, going right for the quick kill with the Fire Rod. That definitely makes sense. Both runners were able to pick up a bomb drop very early on, so at this point, the only thing that they have left to kill is the key rat in the sewers, and they have 3 Fire Rod shots left to do that, so they're in a good position. They can also pick up 4 small magic pots in the sewers, so they're good to go. So from this point, it's pretty much standard. There's nothing else I have to do until they get to the back of escape. We'll see one item location in the escape sewer darkroom chest, but that is guaranteed to be a key. So the next potential item progression we have will be in the back of escape. Chat brings up an interesting point. Why do the players not mirror? If they mirrored from Zelda's cell, they would be taken back to the entrance of Hyrule Castle. Definitely time-saving step, albeit small. One of those things that you typically don't think of, though, because how often do you find the mirror this early in the game during escape? What we might see is the mirroring from Sanctuary, which is something that is a little bit more common. It can be fun that they do it during the escape sequence, because if they haven't yet left the Sanctuary, it'll dump them out of the front of Hyrule Castle, which can put them in a little bit of an awkward routing position. But that, it's always a little fun to see the look on the runner's face, figuratively speaking. Dragonstrike burning that rat down one shot, no problem. He is onto the back of escape. So right there, that's the most dangerous part. You only got that one bomb. You want to be very careful when you throw it. Let's see what he finds. Blue mail, the flippers, and the map. So finding the map means we got one item left in the sanctuary. Flippers, that's a little pro and con. Our runners, none of them will get the opportunity to do the ever fun fake flipper swag, which is something that everyone likes to see. But that will unlock a couple of early locations, and of course, Ice Palace and Spawn Palace later on in the game. Blue mail, something that a lot of runners don't tend to go too far out of their way later in the game, but this early in the game, that's going to double your health. So they have effectively 6 hearts at this point. Very, very valuable early game item. So Dragonstrike looks like he is making a route through the Haunted Woods, going directly to the 2 item locations in Haunted Woods, skipping the Tree Pool Crab and Lumberjack Tree check, which is something that we're seeing a little bit more often these days. First check here, just a red rupee at the Vanilla Mushroom location, but only having 20 rupees and needing to buy some bombs, deciding that it is worth the time to pick that item up. It does give us a crab check, 5 arrows. It might be useful in the future, but most likely probably not going to see the crab again. And our first tree pool prize, that is significant value there. 8 bombs, that is our tier 2 tree pool prize, which is something that they've unlocked by killing 4 or more enemies and having taken at least 1 hit of damage in the escape sequence. That's one of 3 potential prize packs that you can get from doing those tree pools. Fortunately for our runners, you'll spend most of the game in that tier 2 tree pool prize state. So having bombs on the tree is next to fairies, probably one of the best things you can get. And both our runners are set to complete all of Kakariko and South Shore if they decide to go that route. They have all the bombs they need. Dragonstrike's a little ahead at this point, given us our first look into the Kakariko very dense item location pool. Blind's basement here, we get a little piece of love, 50 more rupees, so you can now buy some more bombs. The ice rod, he is now totally complete on rods. And then the back of the basement, we get his first sword, so a lot of value there in Blind's basement. Ice Rod is one of those items that you only need at exactly 1 spot in the entire game, being 1/3 of Trinex. So it can be anywhere in the entire game except for Trinex himself. So picking that up early is definitely something that is a relief to see. More importantly, though, that first sword is going to make everything else they do a lot easier at this point. The fire rod is a weapon, but with only 8 shots at max magic, that the sword is going to make farming these early Sphere 1 areas a lot easier. Looks like this is going to be turning out to be a safety seed. We're picking up the red mail in the well, as well as the powder. So that gives them 75% damage reduction with the red mail, and the powder lets them turn anti-fairies and bunny beams into fairies. Something that it tends to be extremely valuable in later dungeons, such as Misery Mire, Turtle Rock, and Ganon's Tower. So, other than picking up a few heart containers, they're in an excellent situation. So we are now joined by my co-commentator, Yay Boy. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you for having me. Sorry it took me so long to get everything set up.
Not at all. We've had the nice escape sequence, the Kakariko tour. As you can see by the tracker, our runners got a lot of early progression. They're already into red mail. They have water axes. They got both the rods. They got silvers. They even got a bottle for the sick kid.
That's a pretty solid Kakariko and pretty solid escape so far. I'm pretty happy to see that.
Dragonstrike takes a look at the library there, and just getting knowledge at this point, doesn't have the boots to access the item, sees it's a red ruby, and decides that he is never going back there. And only 3 bombs in the race game, so we are done with Kakariko on Dragonstrike's side. He's got all the items, even the sick kid fetch quest. Where do you think he's going to head now?
I think he's gonna head down to Swamp Palace. Well, not Swamp Palace, but the swamp area first, personally.
That's a good choice. You have 2 item locations in the dam, and with the mirror, he's going to be able to pick up both of these items with a single screen transition. We'll see a nice trick here. By using the mirror while pushing a block, he'll be able to delete the block entirely. Well, unfortunately, we won't see that trick, but he gets the Moon Pearl, so that's just as good, I guess.
Early Moon Pearl is always a good thing. Although we might still be able to see this trick from Pachu if he decides to make the same play.
Well, in addition to the dam, the mini Mordron cave has 5 more items, so that gives us the item density that we expect to see on the South Shore trip. Pachu, we do get to see the nice little mirror block deletion trick, so they're going to get the item in both items in 1 screen transition. We are already up to the mirror shield, so we are continuing on the theme of safety first.
I am reading you guys' chat that my mic is blowing out. I'm very sorry about that. I have turned down the gain a little bit. Let me know if that is better for you guys.
So Dragonstrike is taking advantage of those immediate flippers, checks the Lake Hylia Island, finds it's absolute nothing of value. Something that he would be able to get with the mirror as soon as he gets Dark World access, but he's not going to need to go back there. And his next check is the Hoppo location. This is kind of a dead end, so we will probably see a save and quit at this point. And I'm 0 for 2 on the calls today so far. Looks like he's probably going to be doing either the Ice Rod Cave check, taking this ladder up to Eastern, or checking the Waterfall of Wishing locations.
My personal guess would be checking the Ice Rod location, because it's so out of the way, and if you're already around the area, it makes sense to go ahead and get it done.
I think Pachu just gave us our first look at the stun prize. There are 2 stun prizes in the game. One when you use the hookshot or boomerang, and one when you freeze an enemy and then kill it. And Pachu uses the boomerang to kill one of those green little pickle things, and finds that unfortunately it's just a green rupee. Stun prizes, like everything else in this game, are randomized. You could find fairies, big magic pots. It's good knowledge to have. Can really make a difference in some spots. So we get a nice little Ice Rod Cave sync between our 2 players there. That's always fun.
It'll be interesting to see if we get any more route divergence from here, because they've been seeming to stay at the pretty much the same route as far as the race has gone so far.
Well, our runners only have 1 of the required minimum of 3 items needed for Dark World access. So until they get the lamp, there's no reason for them to go into Aghanim's tower and to use that as a potential Dark World access point. So they're looking for other item dense locations at this point. And we find at the Waterfall of Wishing our glove, our first glove. That is our second of 3 required items. So all we need is one more glove or the hammer for Dragonstrike to have Dark World access.
Looks like he's going to go check the flipper location to see what that item's going to be.
Absolutely, you're up there, and you can get it, but it's just a 5-hour upgrade. He's gonna have to come back if he wants to get Zora's item later, which is something that is in the game logic as being available now, but just doesn't have enough money.
So let's see if Pachu will make up that same move and trying to get the gloves as we just saw from Dragonstrike.
It looks like Pachu is. At this point, their only options are going into the desert area and checking a Genus cave, or doing the eastern area and getting the items from Saturala's hut and Eastern Palace. So look, Dragonstrike is doing the far more item dense option of Eastern. And nothing in the old man's hut today, so looks like he's going to be heading into Eastern.
Not too surprised it wasn't 2 item dense, considering how much we've already gotten already out of the runners.
Absolutely, we're at the point where it's been very generous so far, and they're just looking for either the hammer or the Titan's mitts in order to get that Dark World access. Alternatively, they could get a sword upgrade and the lamp, or the lamp and the cape in order to give them Aghanim's tower access. But that seems, getting 2 items at this point seems less likely than getting the 1 glove or the hammer. There just aren't that many locations left.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
So picking up the big key in the first chest of Eastern gives gives 3 more chests in this dungeon that are within logic without having to do dark room sequence breaks. So those are 3 locations that could have the items. There's a 4th location that Dragonstrike may decide to check simply because it's easier to route in by doing a dark room sequence break. But that will not have one of the required progression items. So he picks up his second bottle, a nice bottle of green goo, with 2 magic consuming rods. The magic potion is a nice thing to find.
Especially this early on. If it turns out that Dragonstrike later on needs to use magic, it's just helpful that doesn't even have to buy that. It just has it available already.
So there's 2 items left in this dungeon, and he just finds the compass in the vanilla map, or compass, I forget which one that is, and the map in the big chest. So the remaining 2 items are both behind dark rooms. It looks like he's going to sequence break one of them. He's not going to be able to get the last item, which is on Armos. And this next item, you have to keep in mind, due to the fact that he's accessing it through a dark room, logically it can't be the lamp. It could potentially still be the hammer or the gloves if the lamp were on Zora or a Genus cave. It's a little bit convoluted, but that would be within the logic.
And he will have to keep in mind that he did do a sequence break as well. That is something you have to keep track of if you did decide to do dark rooms.
That's a very good point. Doing sequence breaks means that you have to keep track of a lot more than your tracker is going to do for you. I think that finding a heart piece in that location is actually one of the better outcomes. You know that you don't have to go back there later, and you also don't have any extra things to keep track of.
Absolutely.
So this is a very interesting. Well, looks like Dragonstrike is going to see what's in the lumberjack cave because feels that he may have to make an Aghanim trip at some point. Either that or he's just picking up bombs.
I'm personally rooting for Pedestal Steed myself.
So we know that that there's progression at Aegina's Cave or Zora based on the items that they checked and what's logically available, but both of those are out of the way locations. Dragonstrike is choosing to sequence break through the Old Man Cave and up to Death Mountain. That this will give him, because he has the mirror, he'll be able to do Tower of Hera, collect that crystal, and if he finds either the hookshot or the hammer up here, that will give him very item-dense locations in Eastern Death Mountain. He's still going to have to go back and check those two Sphere 1 locations for the progression eventually, but he might find something that makes that a little quicker.
Looks like Pachu might be heading to deserts.
You're probably right that he will head to desert. Maybe we'll get to see what's on the ledge, and most likely we'll get an Aegina's Cave check. But at this point, it's very clearly that he wants to go up to Zora. A lot of times you'll see runners make a Houlihan room check, which is a hidden room that has 325, I believe, rupees in it. And this is accessible with the items that Pachu has. But he may not know about the trick or not know how to do it, so he's farming rupees at this desert location.
And with this route divergence, it'll be interesting to see what paid off and what was ultimately the right decision in the long run.
Absolutely. Pachu's staying within the logic, and Dragonstrike opting for the more item-dense locations, but going out of sequence to do it. There's a 50% chance we're going to find what we need here on Pachu's side. Ooh, well, all that rupee farming is going to pay off because it looks like Zora is our required progression.
Absolutely. So now it'll be a measure of what Zora's going to have. Is Zora going to have the lamp? Is Zora going to have the hammer?
Zora is absolutely going to have the hammer or the mitts. In order to access Aghanim Tower, the runners need the Master Sword and the lamp, or the lamp and the keep. So due to the fact that we're down to a single location, it has to be the hammer or the mitts. Unless there was another overworld location that I had missed. Dragonstrike doing one of the more difficult bomb jumps here in Tower of Hera. Only has two pixels margin of error in order to set that up, and unfortunately by missing it falls down two floors. He's gonna have to mirror out too because that first switch is a little tricky to hit. It's an unfortunate time loss for him. And the hammer. Well, at 25 minutes in, Pachu now has Dark World access. So far, it looks like following the logic was the way to go.
Absolutely, that seems to be paying off so far, but this is still very early on in the race. I mean, it could change at any moment, really. This could end up playing off for Dragonstrike.
Definitely could, and he's found one of the items in Tower of Hera. I don't know. I don't think he picked up the second. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone for the big chest there yet. But we know it can't be the hammer, so he's not going to be able to progress east through those hammer pegs. Unless it's the hook shot, the rest of Death Mountain is locked off to him, so he's going to have to retrace Pachu's steps. Pachu coming up here later with the hammer and presumably more powerful sword, potentially the hook shot, is going to be able to make a quicker run through the Death Mountain and Tower of Hera area, not have to backtrack it.
Pachu going to the Dark World Kakariko. Got several item locations we can check around here. And probably could knock out Thieves Town since we're here.
We get our first look at Dark World. Unfortunately, Skullwood just being a red pendant, so Pachu has everything that they need to complete that dungeon, but not the incentive to go there. Thieves Town at Crystal, they have everything they need to full clear Thieves Town. That seems to be probably their best bet at this point. It is nice to have the mirror when you make your first trip in the Dark World. If you go north, you have the ability to, oh, poor Pachu getting rejected from the chest game for being impoverished.
That is very unfortunate. Gotta keep on track of that rupee count.
That may be the first time I've ever seen that message.
I actually got that message the other day.
So as I was saying, it's great to have mirror when you make your first Dark World trip. You're typically going to do either the northern or southern route, and if you don't have the mirror, you'll be leaving either the Graveyard Ledge or Cave 45 unchecked, respectively. Dragonstrike, making excellent use of his knowledge of those overworld Lightworld portals and taking a shortcut from Link's house to the Witch's Hut. So he'll be turning into his mushroom. Mushroom needs a little bit of time to cook, so he has to transition off the screen and back again. And he is rewarded with a full art container. Not the worst at this point. Doesn't have too many hearts.
I personally find Thieves Town to be one of the more difficult dungeons for me to complete with little hearts. I find the boss really difficult, so let's see if Pachu can pull it off first try.
Blind is one of those bosses that, if you practice him, you can get it down to a 100% repeatable pattern. But if you mess it up even just a little bit, it can go south very quick, even for the most skilled runners. Fortunately, Thieves Town is a location that has several of those bunny beams and anti-fairies, and with the powder, health shouldn't be too much of a problem. It'll be able to top off periodically throughout this route. As chat's having a nice little discussion here on the costs of the Hyrulean economy, and it is worth pointing out that typically in Randomizer you end up finishing these games with 1,500 plus rupees. They're typically very generous with money, but this seed has our runners farming under pots, not being able to complete the chest game, having to do the hula hand at some point. Poor Dragonstrike doesn't even have any Zora money. Looks like Dragonstrike might be attempting to make an Aghanim's Tower play, but unfortunately is not going to be able to get in there. And it looks like he realizes that and is doing the save and quit. This is frustrating, but it's not quite as frustrating as going to the Dark World through Aga's Tower with no money and no gloves, and having no money for a Kiki. That's probably, I would say, the worst situation you can get in. At least having gloves gives them the ability to farm some money. It's a little slow, but it's better than having to farm 1 rupee at a time through cutting down the grass.
Absolutely, for sure.
50 rupees a pop in this cave. It's gonna take a few trips, but it's not the end of the world. I didn't notice on Pachu's side. Well, no, Pachu did make the Genius Cave check and found even more tiny rupees. Well, there's nice progression. Master Sword for Pachu.
I'll make completing the rest of this dungeon a little bit more easy with the enemies.
Master Sword, I think is probably the best progression, and it definitely is a progression item. At least until the Master Sword level, you get double the damage, you get greater reach. It unlocks all the tablets once you get the book, and of course, it's the minimum required sword in order to actually complete the game. So as far as progression items go, that one unlocks quite a bit.
And Pachu getting his first crystal. And with enough rupees to go ahead and do the chess game.
Well, normally 300 rupees isn't the best thing you can find, but in this seed, they'll take it.
If only that 300 rupees had been there about 5 minutes ago.
Well, Dragonstrike did pick up the hammer at Zora, and now has Dark World access. Dragonstrike opting for the southern Dark World route. So this is going to give Hype Cave access, and with the mirror, most likely they'll make their way left and do the Key 45 check, the Haunted Grove check, and the and they don't have any money for the digging game, so that one they're going to have to come back to. Dragonstrike lucks out finding the keep in Hype Cave rather than right before Dark World. And other than the keep, that's not much hype, so I'm going to give that a 1 out of 10. Got our fierce first pyramid check from Dragonstrike. I was very quick, didn't see what it was, but opting not to pick it up, so most likely not anything that he's going to need. Pachu making an interesting choice here, doing the Skullwoods full clear. This is, of course, a pendant dungeon, and clearing the boss may not necessarily be required. Being, I believe it was the red pendant, doesn't unlock any items in and of itself. So, unless there's, unless they're looking for an item at this point, they may be hoping that this turns out to be a pedestal required seed, and they're just getting ahead of the game. Fortunately, without the book, they're not able to check out what the item is.
Did not see how many items Patrick's already gotten here in Skullwoods, but for all we know, the book could actually be in Skullwoods, if I'm not mistaken.
Unless there's progression on one of the tablets, the book can be anywhere in the game, including Ganon's Tower. Oh no! Unfortunately, Pachu gets caught by the Wallmaster right before fighting Mothula. That is unfortunate timing indeed.
The worst possible time to get hit, too.
I'm going to say second worst potential time, because you actually can get grabbed while you're falling down the hole. And that is just both inconvenient and insulting.
I am ashamed to say that I've had that happen more than once.
You typically see even the most skilled top tier runners, they'll pause in that room and wait for the Wallmaster to come down. And it wasn't until I got grabbed falling in the pit that I realized why they did that. Pachu fighting Mothula, doing this, executing this very well. Red Mail significantly reduces the damage from Mothula, but they still take one full heart of damage whenever they hit the spikes. When you're out of magic on the Fire Rod, your best approach is just to be patient, take your time, and they kill Mothula with half their health to spare. No issues there. Very well executed. Picking up their first pendant.
Dragonstrike using the Cane of Samaria to get past that block instead of pushing all that way that statue. So in some ways, that route divergence can actually help you a little bit.
Yeah, that room absolutely is one of the most fun places to have Samaria. Avoiding those Gibdos, they can really get in the way. It's unfortunately that in and of itself isn't going to save the time lost from Death Mountain, but it's definitely a convenience. So it looks like Pachu is still looking for that second Skullwoods item, making the big chest check, and finds the blue rupee. So I think they are done in Skullwoods now.
And I do not believe there's anything of major value in Skullwoods. So,
Go ahead. So we see 50 rupees up on the bumper cave ledge. Pachu, not having the cape yet, by not having gone to Hype Cave, isn't going to be able to pick it up. Something that you normally wouldn't even consider picking up, but with the rupees in this game, that thought might cross their minds. Continuing on to pick up the graveyard ledge item, get that out of the way. It'll be interesting to see whether Pachu continues right, uses their flippers to access the northern northeast Dark World access area and goes to route in a catfish check. There's really not much better time to do it than now.
And I always find it really interesting when runners diverge so much and then end up in the same place at the same time with very different items.
Oh, Pachu picks up my second favorite item, the lamp on the graveyard ledge. That I don't believe Pachu has gone to any of the dark rooms yet, so their insistence on keeping in the logic is paying off for them. Dragonstrike also picked it up. I didn't notice that on their side, but both of them having that means we're not going to see any more dark rooms. Not that we actually have too many difficult ones left. The Aghanim's Tower is out. Misery Mire being a pendant means they'd only have to do those dark rooms if they needed one of those remaining 2 items. Tower of Hair is essentially on rails, and a lot of people practice pods, so it's definitely nice to have, but not quite as urgent as it could have been.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that actually fixes all of Dragonstrike's sequence breaks now.
You're absolutely right. It does put everything he's done into the logic, other than the time loss from having to make the trip twice. He doesn't have to worry about the mental stress of keeping track of any items. So we have each runner is at this point repeating some of the checks that the other runner has done. Pachu making their initial Death Mountain trip, and Dragonstrike going into Thieves Town. So I just want to take the opportunity to remind anybody watching that this is these runners are volunteering their time for the tournament, and if you like what you see or you want to take a look at them, make sure you follow them. I'm going to post their links here in chat. Takes a lot of nerves to get up in front of a large audience like the runners are doing. So I definitely give them my my respect. Well, we know Pachu isn't going to find any progression in the Tower of Hera, but that the hammer is going to let them continue eastward. So we're going to get our first East Death Mountain item check at this point. We're not going to be able to see the Dark World items, unfortunately, but there's still quite a few items on the Light World side in Paradox Cave and Spiral Cave.
And I'm interested to see if the mushroom will end up playing a part in any way possible.
Well, Dragonstrike turned the mushroom in for a full heart container, which at the time I think he only had 5 hearts, so it was nice to have. There, with red mail and 10 hearts, they're definitely in the safety area at this point.
I see chat asking if Patrick's playing on keyboard. While I do not know that for sure, I can say that if they were to be playing on keyboard, that'd be incredibly impressive to be able to pull off like a run of this caliber on a keyboard versus using a controller.
I've seen a lot of top tier runners claim they play on keyboard, and I just don't believe them.
I've tried to do keyboard setups and I've tried to do tricks and stuff like that, but it's just I find it way more intuitive with the controller than it is the keyboard. So if you are a runner that can do it on a keyboard, my hat tips off to you. I salute that. That is very impressive.
So, just taking a look here at the items that we need. Obviously, we need the bow to complete the game and for Eastern and Pod. So that one's a given. Desert, we're gonna need either the flute or the book, but not both of those. They have everything they need for ice. They're completing Thieves Town. And they have everything they need for Turtle Rock except for the mitts. So I think mitts, bow, and flute and/or book are the only, and hookshot. So a couple items there, and then whatever the TR medallion is. So it's just still got quite a few things to go.
And I get the feeling we're going to see a lot of those items over on the eastern side of Death Mountain.
Oh, we're about to see eight to 9 items over here on Pachu's side. So, Red Rupee is up on the floating island. It's something that they can access with the mirror, but even in this Rupee Poor Seed, they're not going to go for a big 20. And we're getting our first look at the Spy Cave item. After that, we'll get a chance to see Paradox Cave. Paradox Cave gives us a full heart container. Sorry, Spiral Cave gives us a full heart container. Paradox Cave better give us a lot more than that. Paradox Cave, of course, being the Light World Hype Cave.
Paradox Cave is actually my personal favorite cave to go and check.
It's fun. I like falling upwards. We get our first magic bat check over on Dragonstrike's side, finding 300 rupees. So Dragonstrike's actually getting into the financially stable position at this point. And we get a first medallion from Pachu, which is Ether. So if we get Ether Turtle Rock, then we're good on medallions.
But we could also see an Ether Misery Mire, and since that's the green pendant, we could have to that could be a required dungeon if Saraswala has the required item.
Well, they got the flute, so we're one step closer to finding out. I tend to favor the runners and hope that they don't have to go into any pendants until we know that they absolutely do. I'm trying to give them the commentator's blessing. Dragonstrike uses his newfound fortune to go cash in on that Dakin game, but just finds a 5 arrow upgrade and doesn't even want to pick it up. Get our first flute activation on from Pachu. May decide to go directly turn that mushroom. Or there's really not many locations that they can benefit from having the flute at this point. So at this point, it's just general convenience from getting around.
Without the myth, there's not too much more patch you can go. We can't go and access Misery Mire or anything around that area, so it'll be interesting to see where they end up going with that.
Well, it looks like they have not yet done their Southern Dark World check, so they're gonna do Hype Cave, and then maybe do Pyramid, or maybe dive into Pendant Swamp Palace, which of course is another item dense location. Dragonstrike making our first pod play of the game. With the mirror, Dragonstrike is going to be able to check Sasha's hut, which I don't believe they. I don't recall if they went to. That's our Eastern. Wow, that seems like such a long time ago. But yeah, given the item hunt that they did earlier, I'm gonna think that they probably checked those initial spots.
I believe Dragonstrike did check Sarashala, but I'm not 100% on that.
Pachu finding the blue boomerang, the best boomerang at the Haunted Grove, and continuing on to check K45, and then finishing off this route at the digging game because they didn't have the money the first time either.
I think one of my favorite parts about Randomizer is that no matter how far behind someone looks, I mean, these runners are pretty neck and neck, and anything can change at any moment depending on just any kind of route divergence. So we won't know who's truly going to win until the very, very end.
Absolutely, unless you see significant progression or somebody mirroring out of a dungeon and missing one key item, it tends to be that you have to wait at least 90 minutes in to really be able to start calling who's in the lead. We get to see our first Swamp Palace play from Dragonstrike. Swamp, being a pendant and a longer dungeon to complete isn't something that a lot of players love to go to, or even like to go to. But there's a lot of items in here, and there aren't too many other locations open at this point. So Dragonstrike, before making this before making the Swamp Palace play, I did make the attempt on Pod. Unfortunately, Pod was bow locked from the very beginning, so wasn't able to progress in that dungeon. Pachu, we're gonna. I missed it initially on Dragonstrike's side, but we will get a chance to see what that first Pod item was when Pachu checks in just a moment.
Pachu making that same pod play that Dragonstrike just made, about to find out that it is also bow locked there. It'll be interesting to see where Pachu will go after figuring out that pod is in fact bow locked.
So not even an item, just the compass at the first Pod chest. That's a little frustrating. Bow locked, and you just pick up dungeon trash. So Pachu is walking out of the pod area rather than mirroring and fluting. So most likely they're probably going to be doing pyramid or catfish. There's not much other reason to walk out of this general area. Run from the murder-dactyl, Pachu. Run away, run away. So Pachu is in fact checking Pyramid. We did see Dragon check Pyramid earlier. I wasn't able to see what the item was, but it was just a capacity upgrade or rupees or some other non-progression item because they opted not to pick it up.
I believe it was the heart piece, actually.
Yeah, I saw it that time. Small heart piece. So Dragon, given the sheer number of items that are in Swamp and items that are missing, is not even bothering going. And I gotta stop myself here. It doesn't have the hook shot, so it can't go directly to the boss. Is doing the full left side clear out of pure necessity. This is a very, very frustrating position for Dragonstrike to be in, having to fall back down and walk around all the way back up to get the second left side treasure chest. No boots and no hook shot. This makes Swamp Palace not a fun place to be.
But hopefully it all pays off.
And it does indeed. They got the bow, so now they have the ability to full clear Pod and Eastern. There is no question where Dragonstrike is headed.
That'll get them 2 more crystals just right off the bat.
Absolutely. As usual, Pendant Swamp, you don't want to do it, but you have to. I'm still holding out hopes that they can at least avoid Pendant Mire. We'll give them that small mercy. Pachu, sitting here at the menu screen, maybe trying to figure out where to go next. Might not be thinking Swamp necessarily as an option. Knows that they're bow locked on any further Pod or Eastern progression. Knows that they can't get into Desert. They're locked from Misery Mire and Ice on due to lack of Mitt. So probably thinking, do I go into Swamp, or is there any easy access overworld location that I missed? It looks like they remembered one. Pachu hasn't checked the magic bat, so good thing that they thought of it now. Unfortunately, not the progression they need, but it's a good thing they get out of the way, especially if you're that close.
It really did pay off to do the Pendant Swamp there. I can't say that's something I would ever do right off the bat without either the hook shot or the boots, because that just would be a nightmare to deal with.
Well, both fortunately and unfortunately, they were at the spot where there really wasn't any other places they could go. If you do have to go into Pendant Swamp, it's nice to at least know that you have to go into Pendant Swamp. So So Dragonstrike went directly to the pod eastern area, using the Dark World access, mirroring into complete eastern first. Just needs to pick up that crystal, and then they'll definitely full clear pod. Pachu heading up to Death Mountain. Looks like this is going to be a Spike Cave play. It's the only thing up here that they have access to. So this is still a case of either Pachu not realizing that they have the ability to go into Swamp, or choosing to check all the potential overworld locations prior to diving into the Pendant Dungeon. Dragonstrike taking advantage of the silver arrows and doing the 5-second armor's fight. No issues at all.
And Spike Cave proving to not be helpful at all to Pachu. Just 20 rupees.
Unfortunately, it's a gamble. It didn't pay off, but it shows us that Pachu was choosing to do those overworld checks in the hope of avoiding a swamp double dip. If they did pick up hookshot, then they could do swamp all in one time. If they picked up the bow, they could avoid swamp altogether. Wasn't the case of them forgetting the locations, because they are making the swamp play now, which is exactly what they need to do. They'll get their bow, and they'll only be a few minutes behind Dragonstrike. Not finding the hook shot there actually is a small blessing for Pachu, because it blocks them from doing the backs of Swamp, and forces them to do left side. So they're not going to waste any time checking things that they don't need. They'll pick up that bow very quickly, and then they'll be directly heading to Pod Eastern as well. So I do like, in particular, cases where the lack of an item ends up giving you an advantage that we know it's an advantage. The runners would most likely want to clear as much as they can, but we know that the lack of progression is actually benefiting them.
Dragonstrike getting those gloves is going to be a really good move, especially for Turtle Rock, seeing what that pendant's going to be. Or not pendant, excuse me, medallion, whatever that medallion's going to be for Turtle Rock.
Absolutely. Titans unlocks the entire Misery Mire area. There's quite a few very quick and easy to check overworld locations in that area. And of course, with the mirror, they can full clear desert. So that will unlock everything at this point, except we don't yet know what the pendant, the medallion is for Turtle Rock. Pachu has Ether. Dragonstrike doesn't appear to have any of the medallions. But once they have Turtle Rock access, all they need to do is find the hook shot. The hook shot could very well be in Ganon's Tower. And finding Bombo's medallion in Pod gives us knowledge on 2 out of the 3 medallion locations. So that's something that Pachu will pick up during their Pod trip. Very, very good chances at this point that they will have that Turtle Rock access. Now, what I think is interesting, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on this, yeah, boy. given the fact that hookshot is not required to access any of their crystal dungeons, do you think that they will enter Ganon's Tower, go mode, and look for hookshot in GT, or do you think that they'll do more overworld checks in an attempt to find it? What do you guys in chat think?
Personally, I would probably go straight to Ganon's Tower and look for the key right away. I would want to do is I would actually opt to do like a backtracking in Ganon's Tower. Yesterday I ran a seed where I found the big key on the second chest I checked, and there's so many chests in Ganon's Tower where I feel like hookshot being in Ganon's Tower is a very big possibility. So I know I personally would go to Ganon's Tower instead of checking more overworld locations.
I think that's most likely what most people will do. Even if they don't find the hookshot, they're going to find the Pachu not happy to find the bow there. You get rage slashes, hammer slashes, and bombs. Oh, poor Pachu. That's not so bad though. That's not that far out of the way, Pachu.
But at least now they have access to the pod in Eastern now.
Yeah, they're heading over to pod. They'll get there just as Dragonstrike is finishing up pod. This gives Dragonstrike a 1.5 or so dungeon advantage over Pachu at the moment. Pachu's gone in Eastern and done most of the work there, so it's pretty quick at this point.
But while Dragonstrike is ahead by 1.5 dungeons, Turtle Rock could still be the Ether Medallion, which Dragonstrike does not have quite yet.
Absolutely. I forget where the Ether Medallion was. I thought it was Paradox Cave.
You know what? I think you're right on that. I don't think Dragonstrike ever did check Paradox Cave.
Well, that's something that now with the Titans Mitts, they're definitely gonna find that. That's not an item that they're likely to miss. Yeah, thank you, chat, for reminding us that the Ether was in Paradox. That's definitely an item that the Dragon will get when he routes in East Death Mountain. In hindsight, it's a little bit surprising that they chose to head to the Swamp Palace before doing the Eastern Death Mountain play. They did have access, but it turned out to pay off for them because that's where the value was. That's where the progression was. More rage slashes from Pachu, finding those mitts.
The masochist in me is hoping that the required medallion for Turtle Rock is going to be behind the pedestal, but for the runner's sake, I hope that it is either Bombos or Ethers.
Well, there's a lot of locations here. I'm never one to try to curse the runners, so I'm gonna hope that they have what they need, and they do have what they need. Dragonstrike has what he needs at the moment. So Dragonstrike has everything he needs to enter Turtle Rock and full clear it. You know, may still decide to route in all the other East Death Mountain items first, though, give him a little bit more advantage. But no, decides to go right in. So all they could get from doing the rest of Death Mountain, they could get the hook shot potentially, which would save them, you know, a couple seconds here in Turtle Rock, but that's it. The boots, which would, you know, make things a little bit easier, but they have the mirror shield for the laser bridge. So you know, tempered sword would make the boss easier, but that, you know, with any medium amount of skill, there's nothing that they could find that would you know, make a big swing in the difficulty for Turtle Rock. So checking those locations afterwards, you know, isn't a big deal at all.
Turtle Rock always gives me flashbacks to my childhood. This was always the most difficult dungeon for me as a kid.
Runners they have quite an advantage here for health. In the vanilla game, you're expected to have blue mail when you come into Turtle Rock, and enemies are balanced with that expectation. They take half of the damage when having red mail, so you know, they shouldn't have too many problems. There are lots and lots of anti-fairies in this dungeon as well, so with the powder, they'll be able to top off their health frequently. That said, there are no anti-fairies in the chain chomp room, so Dragonstrike needs to be very careful here.
And he powers the fairy, and he saved it. He had half a heart. I was a little bit worried for a second there.
Yeah, that was close, but you know, there's really no enemies in between the chain chomp and then you know, dozens of anti-fairies. So you know, you can top off. He doesn't have the net, so he can't load up his bottles. But with 11 hearts and red mail should be enough. And finding the hook shot right there on the vanilla big key chest gives Dragonstrike one more of his required progression items. Now, Dragonstrike does have the flute. Does he not, or is that simply missing from the tracker? Did I miss that? Chat, can you correct us?
I believe flute was actually in Paradox, maybe?
Okay, alright, flute being in Paradox, so he doesn't have it yet.
Now our runners seem to have a lot of items by this point, so how close are we to actually being in go mode for our runners?
Well, that's what I was trying to to check about to see if he had the flute or not. Assuming that he does the Death Mountain item checks after Turtle Rock, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't. He'll pick up the flute. He'll pick up Ether, which we probably don't need, and then assuming that the Ganon's Tower Big Key or the Desert Palace Big Key are not located on torches and hence being boots locked, they will have all of their go mode items. So yeah, so it's all going to come down to whether we need boots to get those keys.
I am seeing a little bit of a freeze on Pachu's screen over here, stuck at the Helmosaur right as he got destroyed there.
Well, when Helmosaur is he could be such a difficult boss, and finishing him off with one silver arrow is so glorious. I think you just gotta savor the moment and just let it stay up there for a little bit. We're gonna jump directly from Pachu fighting Helmosaur to Pachu fighting Ganon. Dragonstrike getting the only value in the game out of this mirror shield on the place that it was intended to be used, Laser Bridge, and picks up his Tempered Sword. So that gives him everything he needs for a very easy Ganon fight, and it's also going to make Trinex significantly easier. Dragonstrike is not even bothering bombing the door there and picking up that potential save and continue point. Very confident in his ability to complete Trinex with that newly acquired Tempered Sword.
And with the red mail as well, I don't see them having any issues defeating Trinex at all at this point.
Absolutely, that's something that it's a safety that you do if you need it or if you just want to be extra careful. But this game has been so generous with the safety items that it would take really, really unfortunate luck in order to have needed that. So he only has a minor unfortunate luck. The ice head does get to ruin the floor a little bit with the ice, but that's not gonna be enough to save Trinex. And he gets the Butter Sword, so both of the last two swords were in the end of Turtle Rock.
That'll just make Ganon's Tower and the rest of this game that much more easy.
Yeah, all that he needs at this point is half magic, and he's going to be in the the 10-year-old playing it for their first time version of the game.
AKA me.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. It's a little bit easier to get these the Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny Cave items from the top here, and he gets the shovel, something that I do not expect he's going to check. Cane of Burna, yet another safety item that we're probably never going to see used, and just some rupees. After checking Super Bunny, hopefully we'll see him mirror and do the Spiral Cave, Paradox Cave checks before activating his flute. So he did mirror, and he's doing the Light World checks, but he skips the two items in Super Bunny Cave. He may end up taking the lower Dark World portal and checking them at that point, or he may simply have forgotten about them.
We still have yet to see the boots yet. I bet those are in Ganon's tower, personally. Either that or Ice Palace.
So, unfortunately, it seems that Pachu's stream has gone offline entirely. It's not simply a synchronization issue. We will be keeping an eye out to see if that comes online. And of course, if it doesn't, hopefully Pachu is still playing and we'll be able to, get his rankings after the fact. But for the moment, we ask that chat just bear with us, and we will get it back online as soon as possible.
But in the meantime, Dragonstrike has picked up the flutes and ether.
And is routing in the southern mirror access to Super Bunny Cave and getting these last two items. So full completion of Death Mountain at this point. Just needs to activate the flute, head over and pick up the desert and ice items. If we don't, God forbid we need the boots, he'll be in go mode. 600 rupees in Super Bunny Cave. All the rupees are at the end of the seed.
Where were these rupees an hour ago?
Yeah, back-to-back 300s in one place. So Dragonstrike looks like he's still looking for some items. Potentially that doesn't know he's in go mode, or just wants to, be sure. Checking Spike Cave while they're up there, just in case they do need the boots or do need to go into mire. They don't want to have to backtrack to this location, so playing it safe.
But we do believe Dragonstrike is in go mode, correct?
The Schrodinger's go mode, as chat likes to say, I guess. If they do not need the boots, then they are in go mode. But until we actually see those two torches, we don't know for sure. And the boots, the boots can be anywhere. They can be in Ganon's. Well, if they're needed for Ganon's Tower's torch, then they can be anywhere. If they're needed for Desert Palace, then the options are significantly limited. But do still include the pedestal.
And boots could also be in the Fat Fairy Fountain as well, once Desert Palace is completed.
Absolutely, provided that they're not needed for the Desert Palace Big Key, then that's definitely a valid location.
We're gonna probably find out whether or not boots are required very soon then.
Yeah, their choices are: do they head to the mire area, or do they go clear Ice Palace first? And if they do desert first and they find that they're able to complete it, and ice is their last crystal, most likely they'll just go mode ice and not check any of the 3 items that aren't out of the way. So we find that the Misery Misery Mire Medallion, Jesus Christ, is Ether, which of course they both have. So if they do decide to go in there, they have the ability to. But I would not expect him to make that attempt.
I wouldn't either.
Oh, we got our moment of truth on the desert key coming up right here. That's going to be his first stop. Are we desert boots locked? And we are not. There's a 300 rupee, yet another 300 rupees on the torch. So Dragonstrike is going to finish up Desert Palace and then head on over to Ice.
And all that ruby farming they had to do in the beginning.
Yeah, I bet both runners would gladly exchange several hundred rupees at this point for a 30-second deduction off their timer. Dragonstrike makes excellent use of his mirror because finds the big key, doesn't even bother checking the remaining chest location in the right side of desert. Looks like he believes he is in go mode. And you have 22 locations. That the Guinness Tower big key could be in. It's reasonable to gamble that it's not on specifically the torch.
But even if the big key is on top of that torch, boots could still be in Ganon's tower as well.
Using silver arrows to make quick work of Lamos just picks up the map, so we will probably never know what that second Desert Palace item was. So, as expected, Dragonstrike, making the gamble that they are in fact in go mode, not checking the Misery Mire Shed, Checkerboard Cave, anything in that area, going directly to Ice. Which, statistically, this is definitely the best move.
I would definitely agree with that. I would believe that Dragonstrike is in go mode at this point.
Well, we wouldn't be the first people to say that and find key on the torch.
Absolutely. But I'm still holding out that if boots are required, that they're in Ganon's tower.
We have Pachu back online now, so welcome back to Pachu. Pachu actually a little bit ahead of Dragonstrike in Ice Palace. But we're gonna need to see gonna need to get a few map checks and give the tracker a little bit of time to find out what we missed in the interim. So Pachu overcoming a difficult situation there, having to deal with fixing your stream while continuing the race. That's multitasking that you know, I'm not envious of. Pachu definitely did not complete Turtle Rock. We can see that at least due to the fact that they are still on the Master Sword. Whether they picked up other progression in the meantime isn't quite as clear.
And going through the bomb jump shows that it looks like they do not have the hook shot yet either.
No, they did pick up the book at some point though. That item location remains unknown to chat and to us. It may have been early on in Ice Palace, one of the chests that Dragonstrike is skipping, or they could have gone somewhere else entirely. That may having the book and knowing that Pachu hasn't completed Turtle Rock, they may decide to route the Ether Tablet in when they do make their trip up there. So we might get a chance to see what's there. Oh, Pachu getting an amazing value out of Ice, picking up the boots. Not something that is progression given what we know, but it's going to give them the advantage of speed and let them pick up some time savings. That could be potentially catastrophic for Dragonstrike if this ends up being a boost required seed. Dragonstrike go moded Ice and will not have picked up that item. So this is very interesting. This looks like Dragonstrike is significantly ahead, but that could do a complete 180, and we're going to find out really soon.
Because if boots are required, Dragonstrike has so many different locations that they could check. They haven't even touched Myra at all. They didn't do the items in Ice Palace at all yet, so that could really be detrimental. That could really put Pachu in a really good position.
Well, we are gonna get to see Dragonstrike is going to be making his way up to Gan's Tower right now. And with this being a speed gaming channel, I've kicked off the start of the guessing game. There are 22 locations in Ganon's Tower that could potentially have the big key. If you are a subscriber to one of the speed gaming channels or have donated 250 bits across all of those channels, you can enter your guess, and if you're the first person to guess that number, you'll be placed on the leaderboard. You'll get your minute of internet fame. This is a chance for chat. You guys have been very helpful in pointing out all the things that we missed that you've already seen, but this is a chance for you to point out something that we have not yet seen. So let's see if your predictive powers are as good as your memory.
I'm gonna personally guess 6.
I always guess 6 when I'm doing numbers because that was the most common number in the fall tournament. My preference for locations is the randomizer room because I love that it's that we named a room after our own community.
Absolutely, absolutely.
As long as it's not on the torch, though, Dragonstrike is going to be in a good spot. Well, I'll be surprised if Dragonstrike does the traditional right side check. He's going to go directly left, and he's going to find out whether he's in the bad spot or not. And my streak of mispredicting things continues. Thank you, Dragonstrike. Doing the right side check. Finding a key and finding the single arrow. the only single arrow in the game. Dragonstrike continuing with the full right side check. Probably very nervous about about even peeking in on the left side, putting it off as long as they possibly can.
Which is understandable, but a right side is also more of a risky play, as the left side will have more chests available to go check.
That's normally true, but I have to think that they're putting it off out of fear more than rational routing decisions.
I would completely agree with you on that one.
Nothing in the first 6 locations. So he's making his left side check, and here's the moment of truth. Anything at item 7? Oh my god! Wow. That is something that is, wow.
That
Big
is
key
very
on the torch.
unfortunate. And this is why I love Randomizer right here. Dragonstrike has no idea where the boots are. So it looks like they're gonna go through the rest of Ganon's tower to see if the boots are even there, but we all know that they're in Ice Palace.
Well, we went from a massive lead from Dragonstrike to all the way back to having absolutely no idea who was in the lead. Pachu, Dragonstrike is going to, full clear Ganon's tower, save the big key and the big chest, hoping desperately to find the boots here in GT. And that. We know where they are. We know they're in Ice Palace, and they're not going to find them. After that, where do you go? I mean, do you go back into the back of Pendant Swamp Palace? You don't have the book. You can't check Pedestal. Do you go in the Misery Mire? There's 3 items there, including the green pendant. Or do you go back and do Ice Palace, the dungeon that you've already full cleared but didn't check the items? There's no way to predict where he's gonna go.
Where he goes next is gonna make or break the race, I think, for him.
Yeah. This isn't any. This is not even anywhere close to being too close to call. This is anyone's game. But yeah. So that officially takes Dragonstrike out of go mode, which is the first time I've had to do that. I'm sorry, Dragonstrike. You've been de-go moded, and Pachu doesn't get to have the hook shot, so they are not in go mode. So at 1 hour and 39 minutes, we do not have either runner in go mode anymore.
Refresh my memory, was Hookshot in Turtle Rock?
Hookshot is in the Turtle Rock Vanilla Big Key chest, which is the next chest that Pachu is going to open, assuming they don't skip it, which is very unlikely. Typically, in other modes like Sanity, when they're desperately conserving keys, that's the one that gets skipped. But they're picking up the key and they're heading that way right now. So So Pachu will be in go mode as soon as they pick up this hook shot. Yay! And Dragonstrike finds our last of the safety items, the half magic at the ice armmost triple chests. That's all they can do. Save the tile room, which they're not that desperate at this point. Exiting Gadden's tower, lots of rage slashes, lots of frustration slashes. Gonna have to decide from a wide range of options where to go. Looks like they're going directly into Ice Palace. Not the play that I would have expected, but is the play they need to make.
I can't say that's the play that I would have personally made, honestly.
No, there's only 3 items in this dungeon, and it's not the quickest dungeon to route in. But you know they've eliminated some of the locations. They know they don't have to go down the cold stair. So you know this might actually be fairly quick for them to complete. That said, it's not the location that I would have expected. So it's a fortuitous decision for Dragonstrike, knowing that this is what he needs to do. Other potential places were the back of Swamp Palace. Dragonstrike initially did Swamp, but didn't have the hook shot. The back of Swamp has quite high item density. Dragonstrike didn't check any of the Mire locations. Mire Shed, Checkerboard Cave. There was one item that was left in Desert. They didn't go into Mire at all. So those were 2 locations plus the potential green pendant. So there were quite a few locations other than Ice Palace that they could have gone to. So yeah, Willard, this is definitely not necessarily the most obvious place to go. Chat points out an interesting point that I hadn't considered, that Dragonstrike, knowing that this is a crystal and that Pachu would have had to go to ice, maybe choosing to do ice, with the expectation that their opponent full cleared ice. And if the item that they need is here, that their opponent already has it. So that may be something that makes ice a little bit more appealing, even though it's not the most item dense per minute location available. So that's an interesting insight. Dragonstrike finds his boots, and now he is officially, truly, 100% not going to change my mind again in go mode at 1 hour 43 minutes and 30-ish seconds. So Dragonstrike is climbing up Death Mountain. Pachu has every crystal completed already except Turtle Rock, and is right about to enter Trinex, and is already at the top of Death Mountain. So we are going to see Pachu exiting Death Mountain just as Dragonstrike gets up there. Pachu still needs to find the key in Gadden's tower, but if they go left, it's the very first item. So this could be very, very close if they go left.
This has certainly not been a boring race. It keeps going back and forth. This could come down to very much the last Ganon fight, an RNG and the Ganon fight.
They're both very well equipped for the fight, so we're not going to see a lot of differences that come down to fine, highly practiced execution. They're just so well geared. They can brute force their way through the gauntlet and all of Gadden's tower. Dragonstrike back in the GT has picked up everything except the big key, so it just needs to bonk that torch, and then we'll be heading upstairs. Pachu finishing up Turtle Rock. Nice clean fight. Picks up their 4th sword upgrade and their final crystal. So they'll be heading the GT now. Of course, the question is, do they go left or right? Left gets them immediate progression, and they'll be a minute behind Dragonstrike. Right puts them several minutes behind. Dragonstrike having nice fun with those mimics. Mirror Shield coming in handy, blocking their fireballs. So Pachu is going right. That's unfortunate, but will they check the first 2 chests and then go out, or are they doing a full right play? Unfortunately for them, a full right play. So they're going to lose a little bit of time here. It doesn't put them incredibly far behind, but it does eliminate their ability to easily make up the time difference. So I know Chad is pretty quick to throw in the towel here. Don't say it's game over, guys. Pachu is going to pick up these last 4 chests and then go left and find the big key at the very first location. That only puts them a couple minutes behind. Any mistake on Dragonstrike's part could swap the race completely. So don't call it yet.
It's not over until it's over.
Dragonstrike having a little bit of trouble with the Lamos, missing a few of the fire rod shots, opting to fall back to the gold sword in phase 3 to finish him off. And Dragonstrike made his way up to the Wizrobe rooms. My personal favorite rooms in the game. The Samaria Wizrobe Slaughter strat is just so much fun to watch. Dragon's longer trip through the mountain did give half magic. Given the fact that both runners have the lamp and are so heavily geared, half magic shouldn't really have any influence. Either way, it's Pachu deciding to go full right side. We'll be picking that up as well. So unfortunately, this is the least optimal route that Pachu could have taken in GT.
But I'd still say this is a pretty close race, even all things considered.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you have a 2-hour race and you're only off by a couple minutes, that's definitely within the realms of being close. Pachu going to be kicking themselves though for seeing that big key on the torch.
It'll be the first thing they see.
Well, I'm a little surprised after all the rage slashes, bomb slashes, arrow shots from other items. We didn't get a single rage slash on the torch. Dragonstrike has no trouble finishing off Moldorm 2. Gets a little bit of dash going there at the end, kind of teasing us with the hover, but waiting for the chest to appear and taking the hook shot across like normal people do. Pachu working their way up the gauntlet while Dragonstrike enters into the Aga 2 fight, gets an excellent initial position, but only gets a single hit on Aga, unfortunately. A little bit off on the geometry there. Good positioning on the third cycle, but that blue ball just knocks him out of the way, and unfortunately, Dragonstrike takes a death. I do believe he has a fairy though. Yes, Dragonstrike pulls out that fairy. Not having the net, that's a fairy that came with the bottle, so very, very lucky that they picked that up when they did.
And that also gives Pachu a little bit more time to go throughout the gauntlet.
Yeah, Pachu's struggling a little bit on the gauntlet rooms. Had to use their blue potion in order to avoid death. Got down to 1.5 hearts. You know, taking the safety is definitely the wise choice, but you know, not having that safety any longer is gonna, you know, put them in the same situation that Dragonstrike's in. Dragonstrike now starting his Ganon fight. With the golden sword, this is only 6 hits in phase 1 and then 6 hits in phase 2. Dragonstrike being very thorough, using the cape and getting, I think, like 16 or 17 hits in. If only you could buffer those for the next phases, but you can't. Already into phase 3, and has plenty of magic left for the torch. So Ganon asks, "Did we find the silvers in Hyrule Castle?" Yeah, that was one of the very first items we found. We should not leave them lying around like that. Dragonstrike picks up a double and 2 singles and finishes off Ganon. So congratulations to Dragonstrike on his win with an official Speed Racing TV time of 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 11 seconds. Congratulations, Dragonstrike.
Congratulations to Dragonstrike on that win.
That will move him into the 2-1 bracket with 5 wins required in order to progress to the next stage. Very, very happy to add another win to the ledger. So we will try to get Dragonstrike in for an interview, but Pachu will be heading into Aga and Ganon in just a moment. So we're going to hold off on and try to get them both in at the same time.
Definitely not a boring race to watch, for sure. This was very neck and neck throughout the entire thing. Pachu closing up that fight and then moving on to the Ganon fight. Very well equipped. It should not be too much difficulty, and then we'll see.
So Pachu also implementing Cape Strats for Phase 2, getting in all the necessary hits, and moving on to a very fast Phase 3. So congratulations to Pachu with an official time of 1 hour, 56 minutes, and 45 seconds.
And with that, the race is completed.
Congratulations, Dragonstrike and Pachu. Very good game, very close, very exciting. Welcome.
Yeah, GG.
GG. Sorry about that outage there for a while. A certain ISP in the Northeast is going to get a very angry phone call in about 20 minutes.
Well, it's good that you were able to continue on in the race. Fixing internet issues while running a speed run is not ideal.
Yeah, I kept running upstairs in between dungeons, just trying to reset my modem, trying to make it actually work. It was fun.
It was very close. Dragonstrike. I gotta ask the obvious question here. How'd you feel when you went left side GT?
Oh man. These boots. Pure horror. God damn it.
And I have to ask, what made you want to choose routing to Ice Palace first once you realized you needed the boots after checking all of Ganon's tower?
I don't know. In the last time, every Gomod item I got was an Ice Palace, so I went there.
Well, you guys have fairly similar routing. Dipping into Skullwoods and Swamp. Pachu did a lot of overworld before heading into Swamp, which was, I think, basically the last potential place to go at that point. Dragonstrike, you put off doing all of the Eastern Death Mountain until after Torok. Both of those routes though worked out well for each of you. It came down to boots being the most interesting item at the end there, with Dragonstrike go moding Ice Palace and then having to come back to it, and Pachu doing that prior to Turtle Rock and picking those up. It was a very exciting race.
Yeah, I wish I had remembered that I could do more in Swamp earlier than I did. It was literally the last place I could check to find a bow, and I just forgot I had the hammer and that I could check more than one chest.
That's what it looked like for a while. We weren't sure whether you were just, unaware that you could go into Swamp, or whether you were just wanting to avoid it, because a lot of people do like to avoid Swamp and just get all the overworld out of the way. But you made the route there, and you found the bow.
Yeah, I usually like going into Pendant Swamp a lot earlier than I did there. I just completely forgot how much access I had to it.
Well, we have Dragonstrike moving on to the 2-1 round, so congratulations on that again. Pachu, 1-2, definitely still in the tournament though. But we gotta keep grinding out those wins at this point.
Yeah, I got my work cut out for me at this point.
Either of you guys have any comments on the scene before I do the wrap up?
Not really. It was fun. It wasn't really trolly. Just aside from the bow location, and that one's on me. It was fun. And GG Dragon.
Yeah, GG Pachu, and thanks for commentating, tracking, and restreaming.
Yes, thank you all.
Well, on that note then, thank you to both our runners, Dragonstrike1988 and Pachu Knowledge. Please take a look and follow the runners. The links have been posted in the chat channel. Additionally, please take a look at our tracker, Duke Firebird. Thank you for doing tracking. Always a difficult job, reminding the commentators of all the things that we miss. Thanks to the Speed Gaming team for doing the restream. This was a lot of issues behind the scenes that they dealt with, and they did a very good job on that. There are 6 Speed Gaming channels, 1 through 6, that are participating in the ALTTP Randomizer tournament restreams, and 4 ALTTP Randomizer channels. So I don't have it open at the moment, but odds are good there's a race going on one of those channels right now, and throughout the day, with over 512 people in this tournament and several thousand races, you're going to get several months of ALTTP fun. And of course, if there were 512 people in this tournament, and there's a waiting list, so this is a very welcome and opening community. If you like Zelda, please give Randomizer a try. There are nightly and weekly games, a very friendly Discord, and it's really easy to get started on. Lastly, thank you to my co-commentator, Yeah Boy. It was a pleasure to have you join us for this great race, so thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here. I've really enjoyed commentating. Thank you so much. I've had fun.
Thank you. And on that note, we are done for the day. Swap over and enjoy your rando on the other channels.